Hello, BookTube. It's Louise, the Big Head Bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good day, wherever it is you are and whatever it is you're doing. Welcome to my little part of the internet where I talk about washing, which is currently on the line. Not convinced that's going to dry today. I talk about books that are new to me, books that I've read, books that have come into my house. I talk about other stuff, cats. There isn't an awful lot going on this week, which is quite nice. Oh, there is. The lad is going on a overnight school trip, and it's the first one since COVID that he's going on. He's done a day trip, but this time it's an overnight school trip, and he's going on that on Thursday night. So we've got to get him to try on wellies because he's going to Belgium and he's going to be in the trenches. It's going to be damp. So that's quite exciting, except he's upstairs with the most hacking cough. It's not COVID, he's been tested. It's just a hacking cough. I'm glad he's had it this weekend, otherwise that would have been awful if he was travelling with that. So he will have got over that. That's probably the most exciting thing that is happening at the moment. Oh, we went out last night. We went and saw an orchestra play, which was fabulous. We haven't seen live music like that for quite some time. Somebody that the husband knew, I know her vaguely, but the husband knows her slightly better, was playing. It was the East Anglia Chamber Orchestra. She plays in that, and she could get us tickets at a slightly reduced price. We went to that, and it was beautiful to sit there and let the music wash over us and see the amazing musicians play. That was fabulous. And I also saw somebody who had bigger hair than me, and she gave me quite a little bit of a complex. So the hair is today, we're at medium big, I think. Medium big for the hair. I was like, I'm going to have to wash my hair and get it big again. So yeah, that was quite fun. That was a little moment of the evening. So here I am. I have some biscuits, which I got out of the biscuit tin because I've just taken an Instagram post, which I will be posting. You will have already seen it, which will show you one of the books I'm going to talk about. That was a gift. I've got two other books that have been lent to me. I actually bought them for somebody, and then they've lent them to me after reading it because they said they enjoyed them and passed them back to me and said, oh, you read them and then I'll give them back to them. And then I have finished a book. I've actually finished a lot of books in September. A lot of them were rereads. They were Janine Frost's kind of vampire books. The Undead. So I was just reading those for just kind of a bit of escapism really, and they're rereads, so I'm not really going to talk about them here. I've also read an Agatha Christie or two. I've listened to a couple of Patricia Wentworth audiobooks which are new to me. All that kind of stuff, so nothing outstanding there that I can really kind of shout about. However, I did finish this. So the husband bought this for me in August, after I had finished her other book that I have read, and that is called The Electricity of Every Living Thing. I was given that as a birthday present. I'd saved it to read when we were down in Cornwall because it was talking about her walking the southwest coast path, which some of it takes place in Cornwall. Actually, not a lot of the book took place in Cornwall. It was more Devon and Somerset. However, I did enjoy it. It was also about finding out, she was going through the process of looking for a diagnosis to see whether she actually had ADHD or lives with ADHD, or is somebody who experiences life through the ADHD lens. I'm not sure which is the best way to describe it, but that was fascinating to me, but I do love a book about somebody going on a long walk. Just my thing. There are some odd niche books that we like, and that was one. This is her latest book, Katherine May's latest book, Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. Came out, let me just double check when it actually came out. In 2020, so it came out in hardback in 2020, and so this is the paperback, and the husband bought me this. It is written over various months, so October, November, December, January, February, March. There are 2 chapters per month. So that's the way it is kind of set up. They're longer than an essay, but they are, I would say, more essays than chapters. There is a thread that goes through, which is about what wintering is, the fact that we have that time is cyclical, not linear, and that we go through this stage. We have periods of wintering and what she has defined as wintering, and what other writers and inspirational people have talked about as wintering. And it's about how we get through with wintering and why wintering is a surprise to us. We think that life is going to be one long endless summer of balmy easy days, and then we need the time of wintering. So the concept I'm very familiar with. In pagan terms, I am a pagan, I'm a goddess disciple, which I've spoken about in previous videos. So if you're new to me, I identify as a pagan, as a goddess worshipper, which means I practice devotion to the goddess in using pagan practices, rituals, routines, and how I view the world. And so that means I choose to live my life in connection with nature, and of course that is cyclical. So to me, the idea of times where we retreat, where we are called to rest more, where we may turn more inwards, that we expend less energy and conserve more energy, and maybe become more introspective. Those periods of retreat and calm that help us store up energy to stimulate periods of growth, i.e. the spring. So that you can see that as kind of like autumn and winter, more fallow, quieter times, and then you are conserving energy to get through to the spring and the summer, which is where the energy comes up and the days are lighter. So that's the way I see life, and I can see life in a bigger picture in that way, but also in our yearly cycle. So for me at the moment, we've just had the autumn equinox, so I am going into autumn, I am going into that path. So I'm less inclined to go out at night, I'm less inclined to do those things. I want to have more of a quieter time. It always seems mad to me that we have this emphasis for partying at Christmas and New Year, which is so difficult, because an awful lot of the time that our landscape in this country is telling us to kind of hunker down and not go out and meet lots of people and not, exchange germs. It is telling us to kind of use rest and time to kind of reflect on what the year has been, and where we are and what we want and what we need to do, and look at that, and then come and do some, if you talk about in terms of looking at for introspection, you might be working on the shadow side and that kind of thing. So that's the way I kind of look at life. So as a concept, to me, this is very familiar. So she is preaching to the converted with this book. I didn't enjoy it as much as her previous book. Now, I think I loved the structure of the other book, because it had a more obvious narrative in some ways. So she was going on a walk, and she was going on a journey, and she was going on a physical journey doing the walk, but she was also going on an emotional journey, which was looking to see what her diagnosis was, and so she was telling about that. So it had quite a strong path through it, a strong narrative. This book to me didn't. I felt like it was essays around a period, and they'd been hung on certain months, and I didn't always feel that it worked well. And I also felt within each chapter essay, it had a similar path, it had a similar way of going, and towards the end of the book, towards the second half of the book, I didn't enjoy it as much. Now, I actually read the first half of this book during kind of one of our heat waves and put it aside. And actually, I really liked the fact that I was reading it when it was really, really hot, and I was reading about cooler times, and there was this kind of like I kind of wanted to read about it because I wanted to read about cooler times because I was so hot. I wanted the kind of cooler energy. However, now it's gone cooler and I was reading it, I didn't find it inspirational. I found it actually very repetitive. Also, there was a lot of, I don't know, there are obviously things that happen, and perhaps she didn't talk about stuff. She was talking about kind of difficult periods, but not actually going into it. Her husband is unwell at some point, and obviously there's an impact, but I didn't feel that it was. It's kind of. I wonder how big a thing it was, and whether it's either been made more of to get the point across for the book than actually happened. But at the same time, I wonder whether she minimised it and didn't go into detail. So it's an odd juxtaposition. I didn't believe it. And it's not that I don't believe that it happened. I believe it happened. I felt that what was being projected to me didn't make sense. It was like this big thing happened, but I'm not going to tell you what happened. It really affected us greatly, but I'm not going to really let you in. I'm going to kind of not go into details. You're just going to have to trust me that it was a real impact, but I'm not going to let you know what the impact was. I didn't feel comfortable with it. I didn't feel like I truly understood when she was talking about it being an impact for time. I didn't truly understand what it was. It was also her son. She takes her son out of school because of school refusal, and that's got to be traumatic. That has got to be a moment of pause for yourself and for the people around you. And there was no real discussion about how it impacted her husband or her wider family, or there was definitely how she felt about it, but it didn't, again, it didn't ring entirely. I didn't fully get it. And there was lots of things like that. So there was a lot of, I'm imparting information to you, but I wasn't brought into it. I found it unsatisfactory. I'm glad I read it. It made me think, and I will reflect on it more. But I did find it generally an unsatisfactory read. And as I'm talking about it, I think I almost need to sit down and dig deeper into why I wasn't happy with it. Perhaps if it's a newer concept to you, you would get more out of it. But the fact that I understand what she means by wintering and understood it before I even picked up the book, there was nothing outstanding about what she was talking about with wintering for me. To me, it's a normal concept of how I live. That's how my life is. So yeah, so maybe there's that. Maybe that's the problem. But yeah, I didn't love it. It's quite a slight book. It's 270 pages. If anybody else has read it, I would love to know what your opinion is, and maybe you could help me sort out how I had a feeling about it. It was a middling book for me, I would say. I was dissatisfied. Slightly aggrieved as well. That's nothing like a good book to make you slightly aggrieved at the end of it. I do definitely think I heard somebody talk about privilege. I saw somebody not heard. I read somebody's stuff about privilege after I'd finished it, and it did have that about it. There was something to do with her difficult times. But then, yeah, I don't know. As you can see, I'm deeply conflicted about the book, and it has made me think. So it's been a good read for that, because it's got me thinking. It's not been a pacifying book or a book I've just read to pass the time. It has stimulated thought, and I'd love it to stimulate discussion as well. So let me know what you think if you have read it, or you have any thoughts I mean, how much do authors actually have to let us into their lives? I do feel if there's an element of, if you're going to if you're going to use situations as examples, then there has to be a level of detail that allows me to become into it. So in some ways it's like having this YouTube channel. I will expect that there's going to be a level of detail about my life I'm going to share. Now I'm going to really, monitor what that is, and I'll be a gatekeeper in that. And the fact that I don't choose to show my son anymore because he doesn't want to be involved with it. He's 14. He's fine about me having a YouTube channel, but he doesn't want to be part of it. At one point he liked kind of putting his head in front of the camera, but now he's just like, no, not at all. So of course I'm not going to talk about what's going on with him, apart from the fact he's going on a school trip, but then that's that kind of, it's more the fact that how am I going to cope when he's away out of the country. Let's not even think about that. But yeah, so when you're using something, don't you have to be, you have to give us some details for it to make it, for us to feel the impact? I don't know. Notes on a postcard and see what you're saying. I've whippered quite a lot. Let me talk about the 2 books that my friend has lent me. So I bought these for her because I thought she'd really enjoy them. She did, to the point where she thought, I want you to read them so that you can tell me what you think about them, and then I will give them back to her and she will pass them to various friends. Verity by Colleen Hoover. I have never read a Colleen Hoover book. Most of them I have had no interest in reading them. So Ugly Love, Confess, It Ends With Us, All Your Perfects. I have never had an urge to read them. I thought this one sounded a little bit more interesting because it is more of a thriller. So I don't actually know what it is about, but I saw the fact that it was a bit darker and it was a thriller, and I thought my friend might enjoy it, and she did, so she's passed it back, so I'm going to try that. So these are books that I am planning on reading in the next couple of weeks. So that's Verity. Actually, I realised both of them are kind of TikTok sensations. That wasn't why I chose it. But I think I chose this because it was a TikTok sensation. It's The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. When a fake relationship between scientists meets the irresistible force of attraction, it throws one woman's carefully calculated theories on love into chaos. So that sounds kind of fun. Grumpy meets sunshine in a fun and totally endearing way. Funny, sexy and smart. Yeah, so scientists smooching. That's what that looks like. So that's what I'm going to give that a go. They look quite light-hearted, so I thought that I could do light-hearted. However, this is the book. This is the one. This is the one that I've done the Instagram post of, and this is the one. So, publication day. Got a parcel. It was Lucy Worsley's biography, or I'll scratch my eye, of Agatha Christie, a very elusive woman. In fact, a few people say to me, did you know there was a new biography coming out? Yes, I did know there was a new biography about it. Do I love Lucy Worsley? Yes, I do love Lucy Worsley. Am I excited to read it? Yes. Did I start it this morning? I did. We had a big family party at the weekend, and so I decided not to start it until the family party was over. It was over last weekend. This week, with what's been going on in the country, with us having a change of monarch and how that has affected all of us. Oh my gosh. I decided not to pick it up, and then this morning, I had it all week. I've thought either Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and then this morning I sat in bed with a cup of tea and I started it. And my initial thoughts, I was quite nervous about starting this. I was nervous because I quite like Agatha Christie. If you spent any time here, you know that is such an understatement. I really am quite the fan of Agatha Christie. I'm currently listening to Mirror Crap from Side to Side as an audiobook, just to have something Agatha about in my life. I collect her books, I watch her films, I watch adaptations. I think about her. Was it last week or the week before? It might have been last week or the week before. There was the Agatha Christie Festival down in Torquay, which I really need to go to one year. At the moment, though, I take my holidays during the school holidays because my lad's 14. But when he's a bit older, you can bet your bottom dollar I will be going to that. And I will be going to the Agatha Christie Museum, and it will be brilliant. That's going to be a couple of years because, as I say, at the moment, I always take my holidays when the boy's on holiday, of course. So we always use summer holidays. Our summer holidays are in the school summer holidays. So I will. So I was quite nervous about that because I'm like, what if I don't like Agatha? Now, I'm fully understanding that she is a rounded woman. She's not going to be just lovely. There's going to be elements to Agatha which are both charming and endearing and also difficult and hard to understand. Isn't that everybody? Nobody is one-dimensional in that way. We've all got elements. So I'm totally understanding that, but when you have been so passionate about somebody, when you've, and she was the first adult book I read, adult as in books written for adults rather than adult as in saucy. Trying to think what my first saucy book was. I don't think I know. I can't remember. Maybe Lace by Shirley Conran. Did anybody else read Lace by Shirley Conran? That'll be a blast from the past for some people. But as somebody that I have, she was the first, Dumb Witness was the first Agatha Christie I read, and that was because I just picked up a book that Mum and Dad, I didn't have anything to read at the time, and I picked up a book by this book that my Mum and Dad loved, and I probably had seen maybe Death on the Nile with Peter Ustinov, or Murder on the Orient Express with Albert Finney. Either of those, I probably had seen them, so I was aware of Agatha Christie. And so I picked it up, and Dumb Witness was the first one I read. I was about 10, I think, when I first read Dumb Witness. So I have been reading Agatha Christie for nearly 40 years, which tells you how old I am. I'm very old and adore her. So the idea of reading something that, and I don't know, and see, Lucy Worsley, I do believe, is not going to be highly critical of her because she's passionate about Agatha as well. So then I'm not going to like the writing because I like Lucy Worsley as a TV presenter, but I've never read anything by her. I like listening to her on the radio. I like her podcast. If you've, what's her podcast called? Oh, I can't remember. I'll write it in the description box what her podcast is. It's on BBC Sounds, and you can download that. So that's really good. So I've really liked all of her kind of Lucy Worsley. So again, I don't want to dislike the book because I like her as well. So it feels like I've got a lot to lose about the book, but at the same time, it's a new book about Agatha Christie. Look, I'm even using my bookmark that I made. One of my bookmarks because I love her so much. So so I started it this morning, and within 5 pages I just could feel the worry seep away. I felt the worry just kind of go, and I could just spend the day reading it. I'm 60 pages in? No, 53 pages in. Chapter 9. It's written in a lot more of a, not light-hearted, not conversational, but towards that side. It's not a deeply academic tone. It hasn't got the kind of serious tone that some of the other literary biographies that I've read got. Can I see any of them here? One moment, let's have a look. Have I got any of them? I have got a Jane Austen. What was the Jane Austen? Can I see my Jane Austen biography? Now I can't see it now. I don't know where it is. But I have a Jane Austen biography, and that has a lot more of a kind of serious tone about it, whereas this doesn't. For example, she does talk about Archie, who is Agatha Christie, Dame Agatha's first husband, Archie Christie, as hot. And it is that kind of colloquialism that you don't normally get in kind of literary biographies that I've read before. I used to read a lot of literary biographies. In particular, I went through a very earnest navel gazing period with Sylvia Plath. Who can relate? Who can relate? Yeah, I was about 17. Virginia Woolf and Sylvia Plath. I became quite obsessed by both of them, and I don't think it's that unusual. Just after my Marilyn Monroe obsession. So it's these kind of women of kind of history that you just suddenly kind of not fall in love with, but just become slightly kind of obsessed, because you're kind of challenging how you feel about yourself turning into a woman. Because I was 16, 17, 18, I was looking at, well, I'm going to be going away to university, I'm going to be a lot more independent. What does that look like? Who are the people around me? What kind of lives are there outside of the life that I actually live? I think that's the kind of way I went. I don't think that's unusual. So yes, who else had a Sylvia Plath period? Come put your hands up if you ever had a Sylvia Plath period. And Virginia Woolf. Oh my gosh, I still could have a Virginia Woolf period, actually. Still could have a Virginia Woolf period, because she just powerful books. Again, I can't see any off the top of my. Can I see any? Quite often when I talk about these people, I then look and go, oh yes, there's one of the books. But no, not at the moment. Anyway, yes. So I have. So it's not. It's slightly more light-hearted than. It is obviously packed full of information. She has been given with access to personal letters and papers that have been rarely seen. Lucy Worsley's biography is both authoritative and entertaining. And it's also about seeking to place her in the context of what society's views of women and how they treated women, and try and put them into context. Put her into context. But yeah, it's really fabulous. So I've started this, and I should be reading this, and I'm super chuffed with this. So thank you to the husband. It was the husband that treated me to this. I was going to buy it, but I thought, well, I'll wait to payday, and then it will be my September treat, my September hardback that I will just love. But then on publication day, and I knew it was publication day because I follow Lucy Worsley on Instagram, and I'd seen it was publication day already, and they were like, oh my god, it was brilliant. So he is the best. So yeah, there we go. That's my current read. So let me do the stack of books. One disappointing, two who knows, one I am deeply excited about. So that's the stack of books that I present to you. An interesting selection. All written by the ladies. All books written by the ladies. That is what they are. On a slightly down note, although I won't leave it on this note, I would just like to say I had no idea that Hilary Mantel had passed. And she's the author of one of my favourite trilogies, which is the Wolf Hall trilogy. So that was really sad. She was only 70. Oh, and a short illness, and she passed. John, I've just said his name. The husband, that'll be fine. The husband used to work with her brother. So I used to get information about when the next books were coming out, because her brother used to tell the husband so that he could tell me, because I was such a fan. I hope he's okay. But yeah, that was really sad. And the country's been going through this tremendous thing with the death of the Queen, and then we now have a king. We have King Charles. So yeah, so that's all been a thing as well. So yeah, it's been what a change in September. What what a strong month it's been so far. I'm sure September's been. Have you had a good month so far? I hope so. But yeah, on happier news, I do have some biscuits. Always sensible. And the big question is really that I am considering is that washing going to dry today? I can't see it. Just not dry enough. I have got our heated air dryer in the kitchen, so if necessary, some of those can go on that tonight. But there we go. There we go, friends. This was supposed to be a quickie, but ended up being quite long. This has been Lovely BookTube. Let's do this again.